Thank you for coming out. My name is Jeff Lebrecht from Entertainment Weekly. You just watched a trailer for The Way, Way Back. Interesting film. Premiered at Sundance in January and was one of the big films coming out of that, and it's opening up on July 5th. I'm looking at some of the faces in the audience, and there might be people here that don't know what the title refers to. If you were born before, or I'm sorry, after 1985 and have never been in the back of a station wagon, you might not know what it refers to. Jim, would you like to explain?
Yes, obviously the way, way back pertains to that very back seat in an old station wagon that sort of much faces the back. It's sort of an ill-conceived sort of seat where a child is at danger watching the traffic come at you. They didn't have seat belts in those either back then. You might find them in some newer cars with seat belts, but yeah, that's what it pertains to. But it also pertains to Liam James' character Duncan and Toni Collette's character Pam, mother and son, sort of finding their way back to each other as well.
Now, what was the kernel, I guess, that everything kind of grew out of? I mean, the film seems like an homage to the films that I knew in the early '80s, kind of, films like Meatballs that were kind of coming-of-age stories. But what was the starting point for you in that?
Well, a little bit of a few things. The very one autobiographical moment is the very first scene. You see a little bit in the trailer where Steve Carell's character Trent plays Toni Collette's new boyfriend, and she asks Duncan what he thinks he is on a scale from 1 to 10, and Duncan says 6, and then he says, "I think you're a 3," and goes on to explain why. That actual scene, that is verbatim from what happened to me when I was 14 in a station wagon, as I traveled with my stepfather at the time to our summer destination. We used to go from North Carolina up to Lake Charlevoix, Michigan every year. And that was the conversation we had our second year going, because he felt like I hadn't taken advantage of the lake and all the people there and gotten out of the lake house, that kind of thing. And then that coupled with a love of water parks growing up and going to them. Plus, we're both from the East Coast. And that sort of destination vacation type of thing was something we grew up in, where you would go to the same location that had a tendency not to change, but you met these people every year, and sort of that community of characters to us was very intriguing. So all that sort of combined to make this coming-of-age story, yeah.
Now, you both had won an Oscar for co-writing The Descendants, but this was a script that was on your plate, I guess, even before that. How long had you been working on it? And why was this, I guess, the project that you wanted to jump right into after you had the Oscar in your hand?
Yeah, this script was written 8 years ago, and over one summer, and it took this sort of long, circuitous journey to get made. We sort of came out of the gate strong, and it was going to happen very quickly, and then things fell apart, as they often do in Hollywood, and then it went to a different studio with different directors attached, and then those fell apart, and eventually, the script got back into our hands, 3 years ago, and that was when we decided to direct it. And in the meantime, sort of during that whole period, it did open a lot of doors for us, and one of which was Alexander Payne and the producer of The Descendants, and this script sort of got us the job for The Descendants. So we ended up writing and adapting that novel, and then obviously the accolades and attention that came from The Descendants sort of helped give us some momentum to come back to this script, and that was, when we decided to direct it ourselves. And I think, this is sort of our baby. It was the first thing that we've ever written in terms of a screenplay, and it'd been so many ups and downs that you grow so much closer to the material and to really wanting to do it, and I think we were motivated and bullish about finally just deciding to do it ourselves. You hear there are so many great directors that were on board, and they sort of give glimpses of what their vision for the movie is, and obviously sometimes that's not always going to match up with your vision. And so I think the benefit of The Descendants obviously was many things, but one of was really giving us a little currency to spend trying to get this done.
For a first film that you've directed, actually for any film, I mean, it has an amazing cast. As as everyone saw in the trailer, has Sam Rockwell, Steve Carell, Allison Janney, and everyone else. But at the heart of it, you know, the story rests on the shoulders of a teenager. And I'm curious what you were looking for when you cast Liam, and what did he show you that, I guess, gave you confidence that this was your guy?
Yeah, I mean, Liam came in. We didn't do like a huge casting, search Mall of America looking for this fresh face. We lucked out, and Liam came in via Vancouver, came down to Los Angeles, and I think the minute he sort of walked in the room, we sort of sat up because there was something about Liam that connected with us, with Duncan, who in our minds was, and this was, he's obviously this sort of introverted child who's in the film is sort of stuck in this place, limbo, where his parents are sort of in flux with themselves, so he's sort of on his own. And Liam came in and sort of physically and just embodied the idea behind him. And then, of course, when he read, and we subsequently read with Toni, we sort of just knew right away, because there's an effortless and there's something effortless in him, and something natural and real. And often, people are playing, actors play older and younger and are very great at that. But then sometimes you have someone who's exactly in this place. I think you were 15, yes, at the time of shooting, and there's nothing you can get more true than that. And he's a wonderfully understated performer, and he doesn't speak much in the first parts of the film as designed, because he's sort of the voyeur watching everything. And so you need someone, and Toni's a wonderful actress at this too, because she's the same way. She's also a fish out of water in this movie, and they really are our eyes into this world. And so they communicate a lot by doing very little. And so to see that journey of him was exactly what we wanted in Duncan.
Did you feel or kind of realize that you had kind of nailed it, or did you kind of leave your audition up in the air? What was your first impression?
Yeah, why did it take so long to call?
Well, we wanted you to sweat it out. That's just our process.
Yeah, we knew as soon as you walked in, but then we just wanted to wait a few weeks.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I think I can honestly say it was the most fun I'd ever had in an audition, because as soon as I walked in, and I felt this throughout the course of the filming of the whole film, but everyone was having a good time and laughing, and I think it's a little bit encouraging when people are laughing and having a good time. So, and then they asked me to come back and read with Toni 45 minutes later, so they gave me some new stuff, and I was excited to do it, and I was determined, and I came back in, and we did it, and she was so lovely, and I don't know, I just had a good time in there.
I think one of the great things about the script is that every character is so developed. There's no one-dimensional characters, and you play Susanna, who's quite literally the girl next door, but she has her own story. Her family is not completely normal either. Tell me a little bit about Susanna and kind of what you saw in that character that you really wanted to kind of get into.
Well, I remember meeting with Nat and Jim, I don't know how many years, it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, we met early, actually, before we actually got to the round of making it. We met with
Yeah.
AnnaSophia early.
And it was one of the best scripts I had ever read, and that was one. I was just so amazed how all the characters were so developed and so well-rounded and relatable, but at the same time very unique, and just it was just yummy. It like felt good after reading it and closing it, being like, oh, that was awesome. I want to be a part of this. And Susanna is, she is the girl next door, but at the same time, she's not just that chick that you meet that one summer. She has, it's this place she's gone to her entire life with her whole family, and now her dad's out of the picture. So it's this familiar place, yet it feels all wrong. And that's sort of where she is at this point in her life, where she's at a crossroads, the same with Duncan. And they're in that same age range, that same place where they're both kind of awkward and trying to figure out what they want and how they're going to relate to their parents, and this is a big summer for them, whether they realize it or not. And I just remember sitting down with Nat and Jim and being so happy just to meet and talk with them and shoot the nothing.
Yeah, that's what we did. We just shoot the something.
Shoot the
Yeah,
something.
that's our technique.
And
we sit down and say, let's shoot the something.
shoot
Yeah.
something. And I remember I was waiting, and I kept calling my agents, being like, "So what's going on with the script? Da, 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 da." I'm in school. I did some other work in between, and then I got the call. And when I heard all the actors attached, my jaw literally dropped. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited! This is fantastic!" And I know Allison, because you guys were talking about her, and then we shot it, and it's been so nice being able to promote it all together. I'm actually kind of sad it's ending, because I love them.
We have a video clip, which is of an early scene, and this is after the car ride, and Steve, Toni, and Liam have arrived at the beach house, and we get to meet Allison Janney, who plays your mother, and she has a master's degree in TMI. So can we run that clip? You wrote that for Allison Janney, correct?
Well, yeah, we wrote it with pretty much her in mind. We knew her through social circles, and you know, Betty, Allison's character, is sort of inspired by those Christmas cards that you get every year that a family will photocopy and sort of type up all the things that have happened to you every year, and they'll include photos, and they'll be like, you know, Uncle Phil got a promotion, and Jack is thinking about trying out for track, you know, and so we had a friend.
It's always about track.
It's always about track. It's
Or
the
at
first thing
least
that
you
comes to
didn't
my
say-
head. But I hope Jack makes track.
You didn't say baton this time.
Yeah, that's true. But we had a friend who got a really negative one. Like the family was just going to say, you know what, we're just going to tell you our year was a challenge. Some really bad stuff happened. Hope you had a great year. Happy holidays, you know. And so we love that unfiltered idea. And that's pretty much what Betty represents, because in the full scene is 5 pages long, in the sense that it's a monologue for Betty. That's just the little middle chunk, or part of the middle. It's her for 5 pages giving them an update of everything that's happening, like a whirlwind or a tornado. And so Allison's fantastic at that, you know. I mean, like West Wing probably prepared her for anything like this, you know. And so yes, we knew Allison was the right person.
We've seen a little bit in the trailer, and we also saw it there. Steve Carell, who is, he has a reputation of being the nicest man in Hollywood, and from what I can tell, he's in the top 10. He's not a nice guy in this movie. And on the other side, you have Sam Rockwell, who's done all different types of stuff in Hollywood, but he's probably never played, or he's never, embraced this type of character to the extent that he does here, where he is, you know, just so lovable and funny. How did you decide that these casting choices worked for this film? Because in a different universe, you probably could have swapped them.
Yeah, I think, you know, we talked a lot early on when we were thinking about trends about casting someone against type, and casting someone that had the charm and likability, because you needed to understand why Pam Collette's character is attracted to Trent, and why his friends like to party with him and hang out all summer and drink. And you just didn't want somebody that was just a demon, but somebody that was a little bit more multi-dimensional and had those qualities that we needed. And Steve really embodies that. You know, I mean, he is obviously a very charming, likable guy, and yet can play, you know, that passive-aggressive tone incredibly well. And it is a complicated character. It's a tragic, you know, guy who is stuck in this vicious cycle who he can't get out of, you know, and he doesn't evolve, you know, really at all in the movie. And it takes a certain actor, I think, to have the courage to jump into a role like that, where you're not starting here and ending there, and you've learned your lesson, and, you know, you're a different person. And this character doesn't do that, and I think Steve had the courage to jump into something like that, and so we were obviously super excited. And then with Sam, you know, he's once you get to know him, he sort of embodies a lot of what Owen has in terms of his warmth and his caring spirit and this charisma. And, you know, he does play a lot of sort of seedier characters, but it's surprising he doesn't do more of this because he's so naturally almost. There's a lot of Owen, I think, in Sam in a way, and I think it just shows his range, obviously, and his talent that he can kind of disappear in everything that he does. But our template was sort of Bill Murray from Meatballs, and we had that sort of when we were writing, and then when we first talked to him, he right out of the gate said that to us, and so I think we sort of knew from the moment, right from the start that we were on the same page. So
Now, the two of you have been working together all the way back to your Groundlings days. This was the first time you directed. So I guess my question here is for AnnaSophia and Liam. Which one of these guys was the Trent on the set, and which one was Owen to you guys on the set?
Be careful.
be careful.
Jim, I'm sorry, you're Trent.
Yeah.
But you guys originally wrote it that way, right?
That's fair.
Yeah, I
We
That's
did,
fair.
yeah.
That's fair. I was going to play Trent for a little while.
Between the two of us.
Who is this?
Well, obviously, like I'm the fun guy, so just say my name.
They're both very immature, so I think they're both kind of Owen and they're both Trent because they're both such jerks. I mean,
true.
Yeah.
immature
So we're-
jerks is all they are.
So in a way, yes, we're a blend, I guess.
So they challenged you to actually, to like go and put yourself out there, and it paid off in the end, is what you're trying to say about them as
Yeah.
directors.
What I'm saying is that
They ignored us,
that
basically.
the scenes where I had to be upset in the film were very easy, and the scenes where I had to be happy were very challenging. That's what I'm saying.
Well said. Well, I did want to ask, because your character, you have to really embrace your inner awkwardness to play Duncan. There are a bunch of scenes where you get to showcase your dancing skills.
My outer awkwardness.
Was there a certain scene that kind of kept you up nights, kind of leading into it, that you just, I guess, wanted to get over with as soon as possible?
Well, the dancing scene was definitely one that I still haven't got over. When I saw the film for the first time, I was like down here in my chair and nobody could see me, but I kind of forgot about that I had to do that, and so when I got to set that day, and I realized that's what we were filming, I went up to Nat and Jim. I was like, all right, so where are my moves so I don't look like a fool? And they said, you have no, we're not giving you anything, Liam. You're gonna go up there by yourself, and we're all gonna laugh at you.
Yeah, show us your moves.
They
Yeah,
ignored
so-
us,
So I think, but that's just who Duncan is in the first place. So I think my best moves were Duncan's moves as well, I guess.
And that's why it worked so well, because they were just horrible
Yeah.
moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We have a second clip, and this is after Duncan kind of finds a place where he feels a lot more comfortable, and that's at the water park, which is called Water Whiz. And this is a scene with Sam Rockwell, Liam, and Jim. And let's take a look.
let's talk about that mustache.
Yeah, you are welcome for that mustache, by the way.
That
You're
was my
welcome for
next
that
question.
that whole look. Yeah.
Now, was that all you?
That was all me. I grew Nat before we were leaving. We shot in the South Shore of Boston before we left. Nat said you need to start growing out the hair that you can everywhere. So I don't know how many months I had before we started shooting, but I went for it, and that's about all I could muster. But then when we got into the makeup trailer, we decided to just slowly like shave away to decide what it was going to be. We went to like goatee to like handlebar, and then we went to sort of that non-choice where it's really got no identity. It's just I guess it's just ugly. Sir, what would you like to have shaved on your face? Oh, give me the ugly stash.
How did you decide?
It'll be like Jennifer Aniston. I have a feeling that's going to catch on.
How did you kind of decide to cast yourselves in these films, and what was like the I guess the happy medium for too much or too little Lewis and Roddy?
Well, we're selfish and vain.
Yeah.
So that probably was the first thing. And then
Yeah, but my vanity is really effed up because I didn't go for it. Make myself look good.
No, I think we, we sort of got into writing in the first place out of a sort of frustration as actors about in terms
writing
of
together.
parts,
We've been writing at Groundlings for a long
Yes,
time.
yes. I mean professionally, I guess. In terms of the first thing we ever did was a TV script, and we did that over again one summer, mostly because we were frustrated as actors about the parts that we were getting to audition for. And we started out as actors, and we still are actors, and so I think
What were you getting cast at a lot? I'm just curious. Like, you were frustrated with playing what?
I was just frustrated because I was playing a lot of like the lead man, kind of like the eye candy guy.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
Yeah.
That's weird because
sort
I
of
get a
like-
lot of action hero.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I get a lot of action hero. And
It was so great that you played Nebbish in this.
No, it was a stretch.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be a nerd. And finally, we could just put some words in my mouth that tapped into something that was deep
Yeah.
in there that I have not been able to access.
Yeah, I usually
in my own
it was,
life.
I was on. I did a few like pilots for NBC that was just like where I played a very handsome dentist, and
Boy, every show was the same.
Yeah.
Some network was like, we really got to get a dentist sitcom going.
I don't know why. I never totally understood it. But anyway, so
Back to the question.
Back to the question. Yes, we felt like, you know, when we were writing this, you know, it'd be fun to play parts in it. And at the time, we didn't know we would direct this movie. And then when we finally decided to direct, it seemed okay to sort of take on these roles because they were not huge parts, and we had a lot on our plate and responsibility. And so somehow Jim's part kept kind of getting bigger, and so that was a discussion we had a lot of. But we worked it out. We worked it out.
Right. Now, there have been films that are similar to this in some ways that take place on golf courses or summer camps. But as you mentioned, you guys I guess, were kind of nostalgic for water parks. What is it about water parks? And is this, I mean, like, was that kind of like a summer thing for you guys?
Yeah, well, you know, I just remember going to, going to North Carolina and going to the coast. You see a bevy of them. Now, this was back then, and they were more old school, like, you know, not connected maybe to amusement parks along the road, and very simple. And the one we shot at Waterwiz, which is the actual name of it, is a family owned and sort of run, very old school, and it's just a very popular there. And for me, I remember it at that time, it felt like the parents were very comfortable just dropping us off and spending a day there, you know, and pretty much everyone who runs those places, or not runs it, but the people working the slides are usually maybe 2 years older than you. It's mostly teens, you know, in charge of your safety. But there was an independence to those places, and there's such a unique world in the sense that the beach is not far. The beach is here, and they would be on the other side of the street, and it really felt like it was such an interesting world, you know. So we just wanted to tap into that.
And they're fun. They're a blast. We've been going around the country trying to, you know, promote the movie, and we've done a couple of stunt kind of things at water parks.
Literal stunts.
And they're, I love going down the rides. I mean, it's a blast.
And that's even after spending weeks or months at a water park.
Yes.
It hasn't tainted the fun.
No, because we
No,
barely
I
got
mean-
to ride anything. We were just
Yeah,
sort
we
of
were so
burning up in the heat,
stressed
watching
out.
everyone have fun as we're
Yeah.
stressing
Yeah.
to no end, going like, well, I would like to enjoy this place.
Jim's also not unlike Lewis in that he's a bit of a germaphobe. So he also freaks out at water parks.
You know, what am I going to do? You know,
Just going to the bathroom.
My
He
toes
had to-
curl when
he
I
had
go
to
into the
tr-
bathroom,
He had to
that's for
travel
sure.
several miles to go to the bathroom.
no, I didn't. Yes, I did.
Like, Jim, I have to ask the stepfather who told you were a 3. Is he aware of the success, and is he aware of this film?
I don't know. I mean, he was my stepfather from like around the Duncan age through high school years. And I should say that this is a much for the movie version of launching just from that discussion, because I don't think he inherently wasn't a bad guy. He had 3 kids of his own. The idea was, I think I understood the message. And the weird thing about in the movie is that Trent gives this message thinking this is really valuable, you know, because that's just the way he was raised. And Duncan's raised differently. But Duncan, in a weird way, goes kicking and screaming into a version of what he's telling him to do, you know, by discovering this water park. So I don't, you know, I shouldn't, we don't want to demonize him either, but I assume he might be aware. I don't know.
We're going to look at one last clip. This is at the water park, and Liam has kind of found his home there, and one day he's talking to Susanna, and Sam Rockwell and Nat are looking from afar. At this point, we'd like to open the floor to some questions. There are going to be some microphones on the left and right.
Hi. Who was the hardest actor to work with on set?
The hardest?
Yeah. And why?
I would say Jim.
Wait. Yeah, I couldn't direct myself. I was terrible. I gave myself attitude. I don't think we had really anyone hard to
No.
work with at all, you know?
We got blessed. Truly, I know this,
This is
sounds like everybody's great and they
Everyone's
were
great.
all awesome, but it is true. We as first-time directors really knew that we didn't have the time nor probably the personalities to deal with really difficult people. And so when we were thinking about who could be in this movie, we did seriously think about not only people that we loved and respected and admired, but also that we had heard were really good people and nice people and collaborative. And so, you know, anytime we talked about names or something and we heard somebody say, "Oh, I've heard they were difficult on this movie," then we would sort of say, "Okay, then we don't want to consider them at all." So we just tried to stick with, you know, people that were nice.
Hi, my name is Evan, and this question is for AnnaSophia Robb. For Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Bridge to Terabithia, what were Johnny Depp, Freddie Highmore, and Josh Hutcherson like from your point of view?
They were great to work with, and I'm not just saying that, but they're all really wonderful people. Yeah, I've been really blessed. Again, I've worked with amazing people, and this has been, not excluding this movie, had so much fun.
Who would you say did you like better, them or us, though?
This is real.
Are you going to put me in this place right
Well,
now?
it just feels like we are insecure enough that
Yeah.
we
You
need
guys,
to know.
for
Thank you.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Good.
No.
Good.
Okay, guys, let it be known.
Good. Okay, good.
So you said that when you were growing up, it was awkward and you didn't quite fit in and you didn't have your niche. I kind of went through that phase too, and I wanted to know, what did it take for you to find your niche?
That's a good question. I don't, I think at the time of having that conversation, I probably was a little shyer, and that was and he was mentioning, because it was the first time we had actually gone to that lake area, and this was our second year, so he was sort of commenting on a year that I really was, like Duncan, sort of a fish out of water. I can't probably mark the moment that I think, for me personally, that I found, I guess, my voice, or if
When you met me?
maybe it might have been when I met this angel to my right. This just
I'm to your left.
angel.
but
Oh no.
it's fine.
I'm talking
Oh.
about Leon.
Oh,
To
you.
your left.
But thank you, kind sir, whoever you are. No, I like to pinpoint one thing, but I think it was a journey for many years for me, and not in a bad way. And this is I was here, but I feel like when I just found my confidence in my own voice and just sort of trusted that I didn't need other people, the people that I felt were negative towards me or that are in our lives, I was like, I don't know why I'm giving them so much attention. In other words, I just tried to surround myself with the people that were positive towards me and ignored the others.
Hello, I'm a cinematographer myself. I just wanted to know, you guys come from acting, and this is your first directing movie. How much do you rely on DP for the visuals? Just like how far you go to take the decisions for.
For how
For
far?
D-
for
our
decisions?
DP talking,
Yeah.
we had yeah, go ahead.
We had, again, as first-time directors, it was very important for us to surround ourselves with very experienced people in terms of our crew, and we wanted that sort of safety net in a sense, because having never done this before, we were inexperienced and green, and so we worked with John Bailey on this, who was this legendary DP who's done a
Laundry list of incredible
list
movies
of films. And I think we had a lot of discussions with him about the sort of feel that we were looking for in the movie, and so we may not have been able to exactly pinpoint where we wanted the camera in particular scenes, but we would sort of have lengthy discussions about what we wanted the scene to feel like and what we wanted, maybe Duncan to be feeling in this particular moment, and certainly in the house we wanted. In the first part of this movie takes place in a beach house, and we wanted it to feel we wanted Duncan to feel isolated and that sort of claustrophobic, and so maybe, we talked about shooting maybe with a lower angle so you could feel the ceilings and really get that sense of like it was a tight area. And then, when we moved to the water park later in the movie, we wanted to open it up and to feel the brightness and the fun, and so we did a lot of steady cam, so there was movement and a little bit more energy. And so, we would just have long conversations about the sort of the feeling of every scene. And certainly this whole movie takes place through Duncan, the character of Duncan's eyes. And so we were the audience is the observer almost. And so we did a lot of things where we were sort of peeking in on what was happening, in the next room and that kind of thing. So we certainly talked a lot and with John about how to sort of best get those emotions across.
Hi. On this movie, Duncan actually meets the Owen and then change the perspective of their life. I was curious that all of you guys, do you have like a similar experience by meeting those actually people changing the perspective of your life? Particularly, I want you to talk about like hopefully like entertainment people that you know of or you met would be probably easy to understand for the other actually audience as well.
So sort of like a mentor of our own. Yeah, a mentor like Owen. Growing up, no, I wish I had that type of person as a guidepost for that. I think, for him, we were launching off what the aesthetic felt to us with like the Bill Murray and Meatballs type thing. But no, I didn't have. Again, I might be yours in this case.
Yeah, now you are.
Okay, I'm your mentor.
Yeah. Growing up, I did have an older cousin that was about 4 years older than I was, and certainly I remember making the transition, from boy cousin who played, in the sand to like cool enough that I could hang with him and, go to parties and, surround myself with his friends and be a part more of his group. And that certainly, I remember making that transition and feeling like, I was cooler and older all of a sudden. And he was very nurturing in that sense, I think, in terms of sort of guiding me. So I guess I would say him, as an early influence in my life. Yeah.
I still feel like I'm growing up, and I am. But I definitely say I think of kind of this experience on the film as, and kind of the whole cast. That's very broad, but it was my first movie without my parents, and so I was all just by myself, sort of there, not doing homework in between takes, and so I felt like I kind of relied more on the cast and the crew as like my family, and so I would come to work early and hang out in the living room. We all lived in one big beach house. Our dressing rooms were in a beach house. And so I would wait around for Allison or Toni or Rob Corddry and come and sit at Video Village and like watch you guys direct. It's really fun to watch you guys do your thing. Is that a dog?
Yeah.
I love New York. So that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm. So we were your rite of passage.
You were my
You
rite
are
of
welcome.
passage. Yeah, thank you.
I definitely have to agree with AnnaSophia on this one. Although there's been lots of people in my life who have been great influences for me, but I was going to this whole new place, and of course my family were with me, and they visited. My dad and my brother visited me, and my mom was with me the whole time. But I was 15 years old, and this was my first time on the East Coast of the continent, and I went to this whole new place, and I was so lucky that they had decided that they wanted good people and nice people, and that they were nice people themselves. From an acting standpoint, that I learned so much, and as well as just, it was definitely one of the best summers of my entire life. So I really have to thank them for that.
I think that's a great note to finish on. The film is The Way, Way Back. It's in theaters July 5th. Thank you for coming. And
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
all
Thanks a lot.
for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Apple.